Welcome to Tia Chabela's Cocina or kitchen. Today we're making breakfast burritos with potatoes and chorizo, papas con chorizo. So here are the ingredients. We have potatoes. I have 4 potatoes, 1 stick of chorizo, tomato, 1 tomato, a quarter of an onion, and 2 serrano peppers, or if you don't have serrano, jalapeno peppers is fine. And we have flour tortillas. We chop up everything: onions, tomato, serrano, salt to taste, and the potatoes. Potatoes I like to cut up small because we're going to fry them to get a little bit toasty, crispy. So we start by adding some olive oil, a squirt of olive oil. We don't want our potatoes to get stuck. So we add the olive oil, and then we're going to add the potatoes. So we want to mix our potatoes, let them crisp. We don't want to turn them too much. We want to make sure they're all cooked nice and even and crispy. Once this is done, we'll come back and do the next step. See you in a bit. Potatoes are done. If you want to look over here, they're nice and crispy, and yet they're still whole. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to remove these, take them out of the pan, set them aside. I want to get all this crispiness out. And in this same pan, I'm going to do our chorizo. So I'll turn the pan back on. I'm going to set aside my potatoes for now. I have my chorizo, and I am going to add this to my pan. I don't want the flame too high. So we're going to cook the chorizo until it's all nice and done. Chorizo doesn't take very long because it's already cooked in the vinegar sauce that they use. So it takes like 5 minutes to cook. So these burritos you can use for breakfast or any time. It doesn't have to be breakfast. You can roll them up and eat them right when you're done making the potatoes. Or you can make the potatoes and the chorizo ahead of time, like the day before, and then the next day warm it up in the microwave, heat up your tortillas, and make your burritos. Say you're going to take them to share at work, or you're going to go to a football game or somewhere where you want to eat a quick breakfast. This is a good thing to have. We used to make these for our husbands to take for lunch to go to work. So we would get up very early and make our tortillas and make some burritos for them to take to work. Now, thank goodness, you don't have to make tortillas. You just buy them at the store. They're everywhere. Flour tortillas are best. So we're going to keep cooking our chorizo. By the way, I added the salt to my potatoes, and I just kept watching them so they wouldn't burn. And it all depends on the pan you have. They took about 20 minutes to cook. And I covered them with my cover so that they would cook inside. So here we have our chorizo going. As you can see, it's almost ready. And there's chorizos and there's chorizos. Some are very greasy. This kind that I use is perfect because it doesn't have a lot of grease. It's very flavorful, so you don't have to add a lot of spices or any spices to your potatoes, because this has all the spices you want. So the chorizo is just about done. So I'm going to add my onions. I'm going to saute the onions in the chorizo. And this is up to you. You don't have to add, you could just add your potatoes to your chorizo if you wanted to, or if you like these vegetables in there, the onions, the tomatoes, and the chiles, or if you don't want any pica in your burritos, like say if the kids are going to eat them and you don't want them to be hot, don't put any jalapenos or serrano peppers in them. Just use the chorizo. So here's my chorizo with the onions. I'm going to add my peppers. Let them saute a little bit. And then I'm going to add my tomatoes. I like to add tomatoes because it gives it a little bit of a juiciness to our burritos. That way they're not so dry.
Well, we have to go into the finish recording, I believe.
So pretty much this is done. Now I'm going to add my potatoes. So here we have our potatoes, and we add that back into our chorizo. And as you can see, you just mix it around and let them soak in the juices. And pretty much, here you have your papas con chorizo, or potatoes with chorizo, ready to make your burritos. I'm going to just keep this going a little bit. I'm going to warm up some tortillas. The best way to warm up tortillas is on a comal, a hot griddle, because we want to make them soft. You want them soft and pliable. So I'm going to turn this off. This is done. And I'm going to warm up a couple tortillas so you can see. Here we have our potatoes and chorizo, and we're just going to fill our tortilla and roll them up. And if you want to, you can put them in a container, take a bunch of them to work or wherever. You can heat them up in the microwave. If you want to have like several of them in a crock pot, foil it, put foil in the crock pot, set all your burritos in there, and then you can eat them as people want. Or roll them up in a foil paper to take them somewhere for lunch or whatever. And here you have our burritos de papas con chorizo. Potatoes with chorizo.